Welcome to The Kingdom, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex athletics and a land defended by Sir Ross's Knights. Now here's your host, Rocco Geppi.
Hello again, Knights Nation, and welcome back. We hope you had a great holiday season and a happy new year. This is episode 15, our first episode of 2022. We hope the new year is off and running for you. We have a big show this week, a lot of guests, and so we're just going to get started. We're going to jump right into it. The only team playing right now as we transition between fall and spring sports is women's basketball, and what a job they are doing currently. 13-0, ranked number 7 in the nation, and they are doing it with relative ease. Coming into this week, averaging 99.5 points per game, and the average margin of victory for the Knights this year, 48.5 points. They've scored 90 or more 7 times in 13 games and 100 or more 4 times this year. And I have the pleasure of being joined by 2 of those young women stars on the Hoops team. Welcome in Lyric Swann and Patty Anumgba. Patty, Lyric, welcome.
Hey.
Hi, thank you for having us.
It is my pleasure. Patty, we're going to start with you because we didn't really get a chance to touch on this too much before the break. But the team, even though it sounds like things are really hitting high on all cylinders, there has been a little bit of adversity with this team. Lyric goes down. She's the number 1 scorer on the team, the point guard. And for those 3 games, you stepped up big time against 2 ranked opponents, scoring a career high 35 points against Monroe Bronx, and then coming back the next day to score 31 points. 3 days later against Union, you put up 29 points. That week of work earned you the NJCAA Division II National Player of the Week. Talk about what your mindset was going into those games, knowing that, before that Monroe game, you were more than likely, the plays were going to run through you.
I mean, the mindset hasn't changed. Coach Mike always tells us to be aggressive and look for ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with Lyric being out, there are some shots that I have to take and step up because we have to fill in the points that we're missing, with Lyric averaging about 24 points per game. But the mindset hasn't changed. It was always to come in and dominate and destroy the next team or opponent that we were playing. But I did have to focus a little more offensively, having to be the backup point guard after Promise took Lyric's starting spot. So having to fill in for that point guard position when Promise got subbed out was definitely something I had to focus on and be sharp, because the point guard spot is very important and everything runs through the point guard. But other than that, I feel like everybody just knew what to do and had Lyrics back, and we made it known that we were going to do our best to remain undefeated, and still do what we had to do.
Excellent. And Lyric, I know it was not easy for you on the sidelines. I've gotten to know you a little bit this year and since the beginning of the school year. That definitely wasn't fun. But outside of that, what did you think of how your teammates did in those 3 games without you? And specifically, since we have her here, Patty doing what she did to win Player of the Week.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I was so proud of them and, how they stepped up, because those were some really important games. As you mentioned, they played against some ranked teams, and Pat, she was just unstoppable. It was so fun to watch. And, when you're not playing, you have like a different perspective. So it was really cool to see us play and have fun while we're doing it. We're really fun to watch. So it was cool to be able to cheer on my teammates in a different aspect. And yeah, Pat, she was just amazing. And, I can't wait to see what we do for the rest of the season.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Then, of course, the nights we hit winter break, you all went prior to January 8th. Your your last game was on December 14th, so it had been quite some time. But looking at how things went up in Penn State, it didn't look like you all missed a beat. Of course, Lyric, your first game back, January 8th, you guys were at Penn State York. And I don't know how many people actually know this, but Penn State York came into that game 13-0, undefeated, and the USCAA #1 ranked team in the country. And you guys took care of business again with relative ease, taking them down on the road on their home court, a final of 93-53. We'll start with you this time, Lyric. You played in 31 minutes of that game, so it's good to see you were able to play a good amount of minutes coming back off of that injury. Shot 6 of 18 for 13 points, but like you always do, you're always going to get those helpers in there, finishing with a game high 8 assists in that game and 2 steals. First of all, what did it feel like to get back on the court in this one?
I'm gonna be honest. I was, very tired. I just had got cleared a couple of days before, so it took me a while, to get back into the game pace and everything, and it was a little loud in there and everything, so it definitely took me a while to get used to the game since I've been out for over a month. But like you said, that team's undefeated as well, so they were hungry to get a win. They didn't want to get their first loss, and we didn't want to get our first loss either. So we had to stick to our game plan and everything, and I feel like we executed that really well. And like the stats you were saying, I'm just trying to get back to the game flow, and I knew like a couple of my shots weren't falling, and I just relied on my teammates, and they handled their job. They didn't miss a beat, and I knew who to find, with the hot hand and everything. So I'm super proud of how we played and continuing this undefeated streak.
Excellent. And Patty, I know it hadn't been too long, but you played in that game, 6 of 14 shooting, 17 points. You hit 3 of 8 3-point attempts on the night. Talk about, how it felt to have Lyric back there on the court. Had anything really changed since the last time the starting 5 had been together?
Nah, I don't think anything has changed. It definitely felt good having Lyric back on the court. It's like I don't have to worry about bringing the ball up unless I feel me. Like it just takes another weight off my shoulder.
Sure.
So that was great. She looked good. She hit a couple of her first shots. They went in cash. So that was pretty cool.
You also finished that game, game high 3 steals in that game. And another thing that is that's been kind of quiet this year, but I don't think that people realize just how intense you are on defense. As we look at your game by game, most nights you're good for anywhere between 4 to 6 steals a night. When you hit the court, what is the mentality defensively for you?
So defensively, most of the time I'm guarding the best player on the other team. I start in our press. I start at the top in our press. So I have to set the tone for the rest of the team. I have to apply the pressure. I have to make sure that their number 1 player isn't getting off. So defensively, I feel like if I'm not setting the tone, it's not going to be good for the rest of the team. Like I have to set the tone and make sure that they know that I'm here and they know that I'm locked in, so that everybody is locked in on defense.
Excellent. Yeah, the defensive side is definitely a strong point for you. You're averaging 7.5 rebounds a game, 4.5 on the defensive side, and 4.7 steals per game. And don't worry over there, Lyric. We haven't forgotten about you. We know that you can handle yourself on defense as well, averaging 3.6 steals per game and just under 5 rebounds a game, the majority of those coming on the defensive side. For you, what is the transition like getting back on defense from primarily playing that point guard, number one scorer on the team. Talk about what your mindset is on defense.
Yeah. So our mindset on defense is, to limit, how many points they can score in a game. I feel like our offense is really dominant. So I feel like how well we play on defense can sometimes be overlooked. So for me, as you mentioned, with the steals and rebounds, those are pretty important for me because if I steal it, I have the ball in my hands. If I get the rebound, I have the ball in my hands. I can start the break. I can start the transition, and then I can set us up into our offensive set. So that's what I like to be able to have that smooth transition for our team.
Well, after so long between games, it looks like we are going to get to see the Knights a good deal over the next week. Next game coming up at Lackawanna College on Saturday, 1 p.m. And then that is followed by a Monday date with Hartford Community College. And Tuesday, you'll take on Union County College, all of those games on the road. Folks, make sure if you're looking to get out to any of these games, I do know the game on the 17th against Hartford, unfortunately, no spectators. So keep an eye out for the live stream from Hartford at hartfordathletics.com. And for this Saturday, Lackawanna, they're currently not ranked, but Lackawanna tends to be a challenging team. Talk about what you all have gone through as far as film study and in practice so far with regards to Lackawanna.
So for Lackawanna, we have, a pretty important week coming up. We play, as you said, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday again. So we're really going to have to focus in. So we're starting to, watch film on Lackawanna. We take our scouts really seriously here on how to best guard and defend and attack all the players on the other team. So, we're starting to transition into, game mode back from, a couple days from our last game. So I'm pretty excited to see how we transition into this next week.
I also think that not taking them for granted because they're not ranked is a main focus for us because we have a target on our back and every team that we play is always going to give us their best. So realizing that and focusing on playing hard regardless for all 4 quarters is going to be a main focus for us, even though they're not ranked. And that doesn't mean anything. We still got to come out and play hard.
Right. Absolutely. All right, ladies. Well, I appreciate the time. I know it's not always easy to get on the show, so I definitely appreciate you for that. And folks, one more time, this Saturday at Lackawanna College, 1 p.m. tip-off. For information on Lackawanna's spectator policy, visit LackawannaFalcons.com. And we will take a quick break here. When we return, we're going to revisit an old segment that we used to have, Once a Night, Always a Night, men's lacrosse style. We hope you'll stick around to see who we have on the other side of this break. We'll be back in 30 seconds here on the Kingdom Podcast, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics.
Let's talk about college. Times have changed. When it comes to realizing who I am and what I can be, I will not tie my dreams to somebody else's definition of success. I will not confuse a fancy name with a good education.
For all the practical thinkers, the achievers, the can't wait to get started types out there, your community college is waiting. Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online at ccbcmd.edu and see what you can be.
And we are back here on the Kingdom Podcast, and joining me now, a very special guest, once a night, always a night, we say, and that is one of the newest members of the National Lacrosse League's Philadelphia Wings and former Knight, Blake Gibson-McDonald. Blake, welcome to the show.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You're welcome. And things are going good. If you've paid any even small attention to athletics here at Essex, things are buzzing. We coming off of a fall where we had 2 very successful soccer teams, one of which national runner-up, and good things going on with the cross country team. And we roll into basketball, currently the number 7 basketball team in the country right now. So we are excited and looking forward to spring practices starting. And right now we're excited to talk to you. A lot of stuff going on, and we're going to get all of the current affairs from you. But let's talk a little bit about your time here at Essex. You were here in 2015 and 2016, all told the 2 years, scoring 13 goals, 28 assists. Talk about your time here at Essex and what you learned in the process.
I think I learned how to work hard with like the junior college. There's not as strict of rules on like your practice time, and you can sort of practice as much as you want. Well, that's what it seemed like anyway. So, Coach Burke got a lot out of us, taught us how to sacrifice and how to put the team first. And I think the biggest thing was just putting the team first. I think that's what I learned the most, just being a good teammate, being there for each other. We obviously had a really big roster every year. So it was like having a huge family, especially with guys from all over the country being on the team. Like for me, I was about 10 hours from home, so I was rarely going home. And a lot of the guys were in the same boat. So we had each other. And I think that was one of the biggest things, is just like the family environment and stuff like that.
One of the other things that you all did a lot when you were here is the aspect of giving back, a lot of charitable work. One thing that stands out, two things actually stand out to me, and that was the children's developmental class on Saturdays. And then when we would make our trips to the local elementary schools, you and a ton of guys from the lacrosse team. So talk about how, that charity mentality, that giving back, how that was ingrained in Essex lacrosse.
I think like the biggest thing with that is just like obviously playing for something that's bigger than yourself. Like don't just play for individual accomplishments, but play to be a good role model for kids and stuff like that. And then one thing that Coach Burke used to always say, it was just like, you realize like how many sick kids there are out there, or kids that don't come from good backgrounds that would do anything to be in your position to play a sport they love every day in college. So there was always like days where, you're not necessarily excited for practice, or it's going to be a tough day. And Coach Burke would just give us a reminder that, there's people out there that would die to be in the position you guys are in right now. So be grateful for it. And, don't be scared to give back to them, because it means the world to them. And like, when I think about growing up, like having older kids in my community playing lacrosse in junior A or whatever it was when I was growing up, them just taking the time out of their day to say hi, or, like give me props or a handshake when before their game or after the game meant the world to me. So anything we could do for the kids around like the Baltimore County community was always nice. And it may not seem like a big deal to us, but it's, an hour of our time seems like a lot for them. So it was never a problem for me to get up early on a Saturday and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can talk from, the trips that we would make to the elementary school. We would go there, and you guys may have well been celebrities and professional athletes. Like those kids didn't really know the difference, and you guys all really treated it as such, and were there for those kids. Another one was the Parkville Adaptive Lacrosse program that I know you guys were involved in a lot. And again, just, bringing the game to those kids that otherwise don't have those opportunities is really cool and really huge.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, just because that was something I've never really even seen before, like a program like that was making the game more accessible to kids with, some minor, some more major disabilities physically or whatever it happened to be. And seeing that was like amazing, and seeing how much they love lacrosse and how hard they were working just to be there, being able to pass and catch or whatever they were doing could be a huge task for them. So it was really cool to see, and just to be able to see them smile and see how much joy they get from playing lacrosse, even though it may be a little different than the way we play it. It was just like really cool to see, and cool to be a part of.
That's great. That's great. Let's switch back to the field now. Talking about your time here at Essex again, talk about how you were able to sharpen your skills and how it prepped you for when you would eventually go on to the next level.
I think the biggest thing for me was like the confidence thing. I may not have been the most confident player growing up. I think my ability was always like relatively good and stuff like that, but I was always just sort of in my own head. And then coming to Essex, having great coaches, Coach Burke, Coach Zopp, Coach Rilo, guys like that, Coach Wright, my sophomore year, they really put so much confidence in me to be the player that I'm becoming as I get older, always telling me to just, play my game and don't overthink things and stuff like that. So I think gaining the confidence while I was there was huge. And also, being in junior college, you only have 2 years. So it's not as big of a 4-year gap where when you're a freshman, you have 3 classes ahead of you. There, it's only 1 class ahead of us. So you have a chance to, play a major role early And I think that was really good for me, rather than, maybe going to a 4-year school right away and not getting the play time I would have liked or something like that. So I think the confidence was the biggest thing I gained out of playing at Essex, I would say.
Excellent. Take us back for a moment, and we're going to transition this into talking more about head coach Sean Burke. But take us back to when Coach Burke came up to visit you. I know a little bit of the story, and I know how the culture works, and there's got to be some networking and some communications and conversations had before getting onto reservations and everything like that. But take us through the visit up in Canada.
It was sort of crazy. I just remember hearing about it the day of that he was there. I didn't really know much about Essex at the time. A lot of kids from home go to Onondaga Community College, which is our huge rival. Mm-hmm. And for me, I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So when I heard that he was coming to the reserve to watch some games and speak to people, he just had an open, not a seminar, but just an open conversation, and reached out to the junior teams, and they let us know. So I think there was maybe 10 of us that went and listened to him talk, and he seemed like a great guy, and he just had a sheet of paper and was like, if you're interested in this, just write your name and number down, and then we can continue to talk later. So I did. I let him know. Then I reached out a couple months later, and we sort of got talking a lot more. But at the start, it didn't seem like it would have really been anything. I was just interested to hear what he at least had to say, and then it ended up being sort of one of the best things that's ever happened to me lacrosse wise, I would say.
Excellent. Take us through some more of your time with Coach Burke. Obviously, you spent 2 seasons with him, regional championships, trips to the NCAA Final Four, and then, of course, your freshman year was really cool and really a lot of work for all of us as we hosted the national tournament that year, and you guys got the runner-up. So just kind of take us through that experience and tell us more about Coach Burke.
I'd say is not necessarily a father figure, but I guess essentially a father figure to me, a really good mentor, someone that I can reach out to for advice about anything really, right? It could be something to do with life. I'm having problems in my personal life, or stuff on the field, or if I need help looking at film, anything like that. I know he's always going to be there to text me back right away, or he'll let me know, hey, just give me a call, we can talk about this. So outside of lacrosse, to say, he has a really big influence on my life. He's a great father, a great coach, and someone that I sort of aspire to be as I get older. And then also he has so many good connections within the coaching community. And when I'm done playing lacrosse, I want to follow that path with coaching, give back to players, because I've been lucky enough to have really good coaches. So he's been there to help me with that, in my early days of my coaching career, helping me reach out to other schools or anything like that. So he just continues to play a big role in my life, even though I've been out of Essex for 6 years now.
That's great. We're talking with Blake Gibson-McDonald, former men's lacrosse student athlete here at CCBC Essex. And another cool thing that I really enjoy about our athletics program is that, this is not okay, do your 2 years, your eligibility, and then see you later, good luck, type of thing. You finished playing in the spring of 2016 and then came back in fall of 2016 to finish your AA. Talk about how important that was to get that associate's degree before you moved on to the next level.
Well, I just knew it'd make transferring into school a lot easier. Not necessarily just eligibility wise, but I know a lot of schools can give you more scholarships and have more opportunities for you when you get there if you do have your AA. And that was just one of the goals I had going there. I was I don't want to go there just to play lacrosse. I want to make sure I get the education that I can get while I'm there as well before I transfer to the next level. And then obviously, if people don't know, when you have your AA, it's usually cheaper when you go to the next level as well for your tuition. It's less classes you have to take going towards your bachelor's. So I figured I'd want to save money as well, and then, just finish what I started.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that with us. So then after Essex, some time to kind of decompress and figure out what you want to do. Take us between that time when you finished your AA degree at Essex, and then ultimately you would transfer to Davenport University in NCAA Division II school.
Yeah, like I said, I probably didn't do as well in school as I would have liked when I was at Essex. So the options that I originally had may not have worked out for me when I did finally leave. So I needed to finish my AA that following fall. And then I just wanted to take some time to really think about where I wanted to be going forward. If I wanted to be somewhere that's closer to home, financial wise, everything like that. So I just went home for a year, worked, spent time with my family, and just sort of set myself up. So when I got to the next level, I was ready to go and there wouldn't be any more hiccups along the way.
Excellent. Pretty, responsible. I think, when you're, I don't know, at that point, you're 19, 20 years old. The immediate thought is to just rush. And to be able to take that time and make an informed decision, which, so far looks like is working out for you. I think that was a good decision.
Yeah. At the time it sucked, right? I wanted to be playing lacrosse right away. And it's one of those things where people say, like, you take like a gap year or something like that, like you might not ever actually end up going back. And that's sort of what my parents were concerned about at first. But I just kept letting them know, like, that's my goal. I want to continue to play. I want to get my education. I just needed time for myself to get myself situated. I didn't want to make a decision where I go somewhere and, not actually enjoy my last 2 years of college. So I took that time to really think about it, find a great spot in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was a lot closer to home, only about 4.5 hours from home. So that made it more convenient being able to see my family and them also being able to come see my games. At Essex, like when we'd play against Genesee or OCC, my parents could always make the quick drive over the border. It was hard for them to come see any home games. So I wanted them to sort of be a bigger part of the support. It's not that they weren't supporting me, but the more they could be there in person, it would, it goes a long way.
Sure. Yeah. And we were just in our infancy, unfortunately, as far as the live stream and video is concerned. In fact, the first live stream we did was that national championship weekend in 2015. So, we certainly understand that. So you go and you're enrolled at Davenport in the fall of 2018. And then, as we've talked before, you were kind of a part of that transitioning class and team to take Davenport from a club sport to an NCAA Division II sport. Talk about what that was like.
It was definitely crazy. I think the biggest thing was going to a team where that might not have had a lot of culture at the start. They have a lot of club players that are there to have fun and stuff like that, and trying to be a role model and lead them to have a better culture in the NCAA and hopefully have more success as the program grows was a lot different than being at Essex, where they have an established culture and a big tradition and rich history. So that was crazy. And, it's frustrating at times going from one side of the spectrum to the complete opposite, trying to build rather than just be a part of something that's been there for a long time. But it was cool. It's nice to see now some of the kids that were freshmen when I was a senior or seniors now, and seeing how the program's developed and seeing the younger guys lead by example and guys that I tried to, take under my wing and teach and stuff like that as well. But it was definitely a little weird at first, a big adjustment, just, coming from such a demanding program like Essex to Davenport that was, learning as they grow and, having a young coaching staff and they're learning just as the players. So it was a lot different, but I think it's, important to have good perspective and see both sides of things for sure. It'll only help me, as I grow as a coach as well.
I can imagine that's kind of like in the NFL and NBA, but especially the NFL, when you're a top, 5 to 7 draft pick, you're coming from a huge program with huge expectations to, now you're going to a team that's more than likely in a rebuild mode. That's how they got that top 5, top 7 pick. So I can imagine it's definitely something like that as far as the culture is concerned. Definitely.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. And, a school being in Michigan, lacrosse is not nearly as big overall as it is in Maryland. So I think the talent wasn't as good for sure, but it allowed me to, play a big role right away and, sort of teach some of the kids the same kind of things that Coach Burke would have taught me and show them some tricks of the trade and stuff like that. So it was nice to have a leadership role. And I think after my sophomore year being a captain at Essex, when I transferred to Davenport, I think it helped me be a lot more prepared to lead there after having a chance to lead while I was in Essex.
Yeah, absolutely. And not too bad in your senior year at Davenport, unfortunately cut short due to the COVID pandemic starting. But in 6 games, 15 goals, 9 assists. So nothing to really hang your head about with that year, first year of NCAA Division II play.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough, and we had to take our licks pretty much every single game. But we did end up getting to win our very last game right before COVID, actually. So we were in Colorado for spring break, lost 2 pretty good games, and then we won our last one before we got to fly back home. And then 2 days later, COVID was taking over the world, I guess. So It was nice to get at least one NCAA win.
Talking to Blake Gibson-McDonald, former Essex men's lacrosse student athlete, member of Six Nations from Ontario, Canada. So, don't want to spend too much time on it because I think we've all heard enough about COVID, but kind of take us through, what that time between Davenport and dealing with COVID up to, just a few months ago, when we're going to touch on you're joining the Philadelphia Wings.
It was definitely like weird and full of uncertainty. It's like, I think the hardest thing for me was that you never really knew like what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Before COVID, you could make so many plans in advance and they're probably going to happen. But with COVID, like you don't know what the rules are going to be next week or whatever that is. So a lot of uncertainty was weird. So I just put a lot of time into just going to the gym, staying fit. Michigan didn't really ever close, only for a little bit, which was nice. So I got to coach kids. I coached at a travel lacrosse program throughout the time. And then last year I was coaching at a high school. So I got to stay involved in the game, keep my stick in my hand that way. And then, just working and then working out. There wasn't really too much going on for anyone, I guess, the past 2 years, other than small things to keep yourself busy. But like I said, it was just weird not being able to really plan in advance. So I was just, waiting for a chance to eventually play again. But no one knew when that was going to happen because when we got canceled, the NLL got canceled halfway through a year, and then they canceled their whole season last year because there's not really enough money into it to play without fans.
Yeah.
The rules were going to be. So it was nice to finally get a chance to play this year. But I just never really knew when it was going to happen. So I wanted to stay prepared if I got the chance and was just hoping that I would get a chance eventually.
So talk about when you started coaching during this pandemic and, you're working with younger athletes. Were you making better connections with what you had learned from Coach Burke and his staff? And was some of what he taught you kind of making more sense now that you were in a different position to pass that on?
Oh, 100%. I think, as a player, you hear the same things every single day when you have the same coach all year. And sometimes you're like, damn, like just, give me a break, or why are you so frustrated about like these little small things? And then once you're on the other side of it, you're like, okay, everything he said made sense. So I think I learned a lot. And like, sometimes it'll be funny. Like I'll be coaching and I'll say something and I'm like, oh my God, like I sound exactly like my coaches. Like I'm turning into that. But I think I learned a lot. Not really X's and O's wise. That's not the biggest thing, but just how to build the culture is the biggest thing. Preaching the little small things that as a player, I thought was the most annoying thing ever. But once you're trying to build a team and, make these kids successful, you realize the little things are probably more important than anything else. I'm pretty sure Coach Burke used to always say, like, if I can't trust you to do these little things, like say, for example, we had to wear the same clothes for practice, just like a really small thing. But he's like, if I can't trust you to be responsible and have like the right apparel for practice, then how am I going to trust you to do, X, Y, and Z in a big game? So preaching the little things, always being on time, like being on time is late, like being early is on time, and stuff like that is one thing I've noticed, like that I'm always preaching to them, that Coach Burke was preaching to us.
Yeah, absolutely. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. To be late is to be forgotten.
Yeah.
We came from that era.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk now what you are up to at the moment, playing transition, which is I'll admit a new position for me to learn, but playing transition for the NLL's Philadelphia Wings. Take me through that process, how that came about. Was it, I know there was an open tryout, but were you invited to that tryout? Did you find out about it through the grapevine? Like, how did that all come about?
Yeah, so I just saw it on like Twitter. The team tweeted out that they were having an open tryout. And at first I was like, okay, like maybe I'll do this. And then I saw that they were bringing all the players that they've drafted to the open tryout so they could get, like the rookies could get an extra practice in before training camp. So once I saw that, I was like, that's a perfect chance. Like if I can go play with these guys and possibly, outplay some of their drafted players, and I don't see why I wouldn't be able to get a shot with the big guys. So I saw, like I said, I saw it on Twitter, signed up. I had about 6 weeks to really push it to get in better shape. Drove about 10 hours out to Philly, practiced for 2 days, and then got the call the next day that I was going to the main camp with the guys, which was super exciting. I was definitely nervous. I didn't really know what to expect, but it's been really good so far. But I just, I figured like with COVID, like I said earlier, like I never knew when I'd get a chance. And I saw that. I was like, these teams rarely ever actually have open tryouts where you can just sign up and go. So once I saw that, I was just like, you know what, I have nothing to lose. Like if it doesn't work out, then I'll just keep working and doing whatever I've been doing now. But if I, can make a play and play well, I guess I must have, then I'll get a chance to live out a dream that I've wanted to do my whole life. So
Absolutely. Well, we're all definitely proud of you down here in Knights Nation. And you must have made a pretty big impact because back in October, the Philadelphia Inquirer wrote an article. The title of the article, the headline, "Wings Hold Open Tryout, Find a Diamond in the Rough in Defender Blake McDonald." Talk about what it was like, not only to make the team through an open tryout, but to then, see your name in the Inquirer.
Oh, yeah. So they called me the next day after it was announced and they asked to interview me. And I don't know if I've ever really been that nervous in my life. Like I've always been someone that doesn't mind talking and don't have a hard time talking by any means. But when they called and felt like when I was answering my questions, my mind was just in a pretzel. I was like, I don't want to say anything dumb. I don't want to swear. Like, I was just super, super nervous. And I remember I kept apologizing to the girl I was interviewing me. I'm like, sorry, I don't know if that makes sense. And she just kept telling me to relax. But yeah, I was definitely really nervous. That's for sure.
I want to take at least 10% of the blame because apparently I just didn't prepare you well enough when you were here at Essex with us.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I've never had a problem talking, but anytime there's like a camera or like someone's like asking me questions for something else, it's like I just freeze up. So it was definitely weird.
I can imagine. Well, so far through the season, and it's still a very young season, you've gotten a chance to dress in 2 games. Talk about how that's going and if you're starting to kind of, find your way in this league and with the team.
Well, it was really good. The first game, I was obviously really nervous, being my first game. And we actually got to play in Hamilton, which is about 20 minutes from my house at home where my family lives. So I know the coach, I appreciate him so much because he gave me his extra tickets for the game. And then I had my tickets that the team gave me. So I got to have a bunch of family and friends in the stands, which, probably made me a little more nervous than it would have been. And I remember a couple of my mistakes during the first game. I was like, I never would have done that. What is going on? Compared to this past weekend, and I felt 10 times better, like way more comfortable. I wasn't overthinking the small things as much. I was just, just playing my game, which was nice. So I think with time, you'll get more experience, you'll learn more. But the first one was definitely, I felt like I was sweating for like 3 hours before the game even started. Just like, oh my God.
Talk to us about, for those that don't understand the, because another, I guess, term for indoor lacrosse is box lacrosse, which is, I believe, the term that you're most familiar with because there's a lot of box lacrosse in Canada, from what I understand.
Yeah, box lacrosse is our national sport of summer in Canada, actually. So I never played field lacrosse in my life till I think 8th or 9th grade. Played box lacrosse my whole life, and yeah, it's just a lot more fast paced and stuff like that. It's obviously inside of a hockey rink. It's very physical. We play in the summer in these super hot old arenas, so. I think it makes you a little more blue collar playing that version of lacrosse. You might have to be a little bit tougher playing those games and stuff like that. But it's a lot of fun. It's something that I'd recommend everyone give a shot to watch because it's just like super up and down. They have music playing the whole game. Like people at the game just seem to really love it.
Yeah, I think for us in this area, we can remember and still have them here, but the Baltimore Blast, and as far as the atmosphere is concerned, there really is a big similarity with that. All right. Well, thanks for explaining that to us, Blake. I know that a lot of folks listening probably it's been a while since they've seen box lacrosse. I know many years ago we had a box lacrosse team here in Baltimore, but it has been quite some time. So I appreciate that, and we wish you all the success in the world. We're following along, and anytime we get word that you're dressing, I think about 5 minutes later, Coach Burke is sending out a text message to let us know, to make sure that we're aware. So we appreciate it. We wish you luck and appreciate you coming on to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If you ever want to speak again, just let me know. And thank you guys for the support. It means a lot.
Absolutely. And folks, if you want to check things out for yourself, the Philadelphia Wings on Saturday, January 15th, will be at home at the Wells Fargo Center taking on the Albany Firewolves. And they are home again the following Saturday, the 22nd of January, as they host the Rochester Nighthawks in a game. The first game, Saturday, the 15th, is a noon start, and on the 22nd, a 7 p.m. start. When we come back, we're going to send things home for this week's episode of the Kingdom Podcast. Give us 30 seconds for this commercial break, and we'll be back to close things out on the Kingdom Podcast, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics.
Let's talk about college. Times have changed. When it comes to realizing who I am and what I can be, I will not tie my dreams to somebody else's definition of success. I will not confuse a fancy name with a good education.
For all the practical thinkers, the achievers, the can't wait to get started types out there, your community college is waiting. Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online at ccbcmd.edu and see what you can be.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode. I'd like to thank my guests again. Thank you to Patty Anumgba and Lyric Swann from women's basketball, and former men's lacrosse student athlete Blake Gibson-McDonald, playing for the National Lacrosse League's Philadelphia Wings. Keep an eye out on things, folks. A lot is happening around the kingdom. And of course, as we talked about earlier in the show, there are a lot of contests coming up for women's basketball, with 4 matches in a 7-day span coming up this Saturday against Lackawanna, and then they will play on Monday at Hartford, on Tuesday at Union, and that's all coming up in the next few days here. After that game, it is back on the road again for the Knights women's basketball team as they travel to New York to take on Monroe College. So 4 games in 7 days between January 15th and the 22nd. Our Knights are going to be busy and put to the test to try and extend that winning streak, which they currently sit number 7 in the country and at 13-0 on the season. Men's lacrosse, men's and women's track and field, and baseball all making their ways back on campus. Stay tuned for the spring schedule releases, and you'll want to keep a lookout on social media and on our website. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at CCBC Essex Sports, the website ccbcessexknights.com, and make sure you head over to YouTube, where you're going to find not only this podcast, but you'll find all of our highlights and live streamed sporting events coming up. The next one scheduled for January 26th as Knights women's basketball hosts Sibling Campus, CCBC Catonsville. That'll be a 6 p.m. tip-off. Unfortunately, no spectators allowed, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can hit youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights, or you can just keyword search CCBC Essex Athletics in YouTube. The social media handles for women's basketball, men's lacrosse, baseball, and track and field are all in the episode description, so make sure you follow them as well. Once again, thanks for tuning into this episode. We're glad to be here in 2022. And Knights Athletics, we are not done yet. A lot of games to be played, a lot of wins to be had by your Knights. Until next time, I'm Rocco Geppi saying so long and be well.